Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So even though we are about to embark on a new season, a lot of people are still talking about 2025 unrestricted and restricted free agents, especially recently with guys like Draisaitl and Crosby signing, on top of the fact that we have seen large deals be handed out since July 1st, whether that was to 2024 RFAs or 2025 UFAs or RFAs that have kind of reset the market to a degree, especially with defensemen. Moritz Seider, $8.55 million, Brock Faber, $8.5. Evan Bouchard, Noah Dobson's prices definitely just went up. So I thought it'd be a fun idea to look at 14 of the biggest UFAs and RFAs next summer and kind of predict where their contracts would be. I did this like end of June before they were extension eligible. Now we're going to go through it yet again, and I'm going to let you know their updated term in AAV. And we're going to start with John Tavares. I have him signing a 3-year deal at $6 million. It's pretty surprising. He's going to be 35 years old when this deal kicks in. He has a September birthday, just recently turned 34. So only 3 years and at a perfectly reasonable $6 million. I think he's going to yet again be around like a 65 to 75 point guy. I think he's going to take a relatively team-friendly deal, considering the fact that he's a nice guy. He probably feels bad that he kind of stole some millions of dollars per year from the Toronto Maple Leafs relative to his play the last like 4 or 5 years. So when looking at that, I think he wants to be a Toronto Maple Leaf for life. His entire family's there. His boys are growing up around there. So as a result, I have him signing a 3-year deal at $6 million with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Next up, Linus Ullmark. I have him signing a 6-year deal at $8 million. This might be with Ottawa. This might be with a different team, but he is going to have a lot of leverage, assuming that he plays good in Ottawa. Considering the fact this guy's been as consistent as you're going to find a goaltender. He's had at least a .915 save percentage each of the last 6 seasons, including seasons in goddamn Buffalo. That is extremely impressive to do. So considering the fact that, yes, he's going to be like 32 years old when this hypothetical deal kicks in. That's why I only have it at 6 years instead of like an 8-year deal like a UC Saros or Sorokin. But I think if he hits the unrestricted free agent market, he's the best UFA since Bobrovsky in terms of goaltenders. And if the Senators have to pay him, if they are going to pay him, if he plays good, considering the fact that they have had such shit goaltending in recent years, they're going to have to give him a sizable contract. So as a result, 6 years, $8 million. Noah Dobson, I have 8 years, $9.1 million. I think when I did this like 3 or 4 months ago, I had him at $8.5 million. He's getting more than Moritz Seider and Brock Faber, considering the fact that, assuming he has another 60-ish point season, I think he's probably going to play out most of the year until he signs a new deal. He's going to have a 51-point season, then a 49-point season, then a 70-point season, and then this year around 60-ish. He's probably be around 60-ish point pace, whether he signs it during the middle of the season or at the end of the season. He's rightfully so going to get around $9 million. I have him at 8 years, $9.1 million, just below Matt Barzal's contract at $9.15. I think that's probably the cap for a guy like Noah Dobson. And when looking at him, that would make him the 10th highest paid defenseman in the NHL, in between Roman Josi and Darnell Nurse. He's 24 years old. He'll be 25 when this deal kicks in. He's already a top 11 to 18 defenseman, depending on how you rank him. He's a legit guy. That cap hit's only going to look good down the rest of the line, and you're paying for most of his 20s, not really his 30s, like with maybe some other guys. 8 years, $9.1 million. Perfectly fair market value for both teams. Igor Shesterkin, 8 years, $11 million. Last 3 seasons in the regular season, he has a .921 save percentage. In the playoffs, a .928 save percentage. He's pretty easily, in my opinion, the best goaltender in the entire NHL regular season and playoffs combined, and rightfully so. He gets to reset the goalie market. I think that he's going to get a massive bag. He wants $12 million. I don't think that is that realistic, considering that would absolutely blow the goalie market out of proportion, and especially when looking at the deals that Saros signed, $7.74 million, Sorokin, $8.25, Hellebuck, $8.5. He deserves more than that, and he deserves to reset the market, but $11 million will do just that, and I think that's perfectly fair for a guy that has just been so amazing and kind of carried the Rangers throughout the playoffs. Wyatt Johnston, I'm going to have them going with a bridge deal, similarly with what they did with Jason Robertson after he had like a 79-point season in 71 games, was on like 40-goal pace. I think Johnston's going to have a very big year this year. I have him signing 3 years, $7.25 million. No state tax in Texas. I think they're going to get a very effective deal, especially after seeing them somehow bridge Thomas Harley. 2 years, $4 million. I think he's going to be around 70 to 80 points this year. And he's going to sign some cheap bridge deal until the Tyler Seguin deal is fully done, until these Dumba and Labushkin deals are done that are pretty horrible. Then they're going to give Wyatt Johnston his 8-year deal at $26 million. That's the plan for the Dallas Stars. However, for Jake Oettinger, the other Dallas Stars, considering they already bridged them on a 2 or 3 year deal at $4 million, he's probably going to get a bag. I have him at 8 years, $8.75 million. Yes, Jeremy Swayman was definitely better than Jake Oettinger last year, but Jake Oettinger has a far better track record when looking at Swayman. I think Swayman's going to get something between 8 years, $8.8 to $8.5 million. So Oettinger at 8.75, considering the fact it would be a year later, considering the fact they are the same age. I think Oettinger, who has far more games under his belt, has started at least 48 games in a season, 3 different seasons. You compare that to Jeremy Swayman, who hasn't even started 45 games in a goddamn season, and Oettinger has a season of being an absolute workhorse, and I think he's going to be a very good season, very good this year. But in 2023, he played 62 games. He had a 919. He proved that he can be near Vezina level. So as a result, he's going to get a massive bag, and rightfully so. Carter Verhaeghe, 8 years, $7.75 million. There was a lot of rumors, right as the offseason kicked off, that they basically had this deal locked up. Maybe they're just waiting for something else. I don't know exactly. But he has been around the 35 and 35, 40 and 35 kind of guy for the Florida Panthers. Don't let him go. He is so clutch for this team come playoff time. Just lock him up. Next up, I got Brock Boeser, 8 years, $8.15 million. And I know what you guys are going to scream. That's more than Quinn Hughes. That's more than JT Miller. JT Miller was far older when he's going to sign his deal and didn't really have that long of a track record in terms of being a legit star. And Quinn Hughes signed his deal right off his ELC, didn't have an insane track record. The cap is going up. You have to pass some guys in terms of that, in terms of cap hit. So Brock Boeser, 40 goals last year was fantastic. Don't think he's going to be a consistent 40-goal scorer, but as long as he's pretty decent to start next season, you probably want to lock him up. You don't want to lock him up right now coming off such an insane year, shooting 19%, but as long as he's on pace for a 35 and 35 season, which is perfectly realistic for Brock Boeser, I think you lock him up at around $8 million. So as a result, I have him at $8.15 million. Evan Bouchard, 8 years, $9.6 million. They should have locked him up last offseason instead of bridging him. They should have moved some money around, gave him an 8 by 6.75, and now they're probably going to pay the price. Well, they made the Stanley Cup final in part because he was making so little. Maybe they'll win the Cup this year. But if they don't win the Stanley Cup, they're going to pay the price next offseason. He's probably going to play out this year, considering the fact that he only has one season north of 43 points. He doesn't have multiple seasons like Noah Dobson of being a legit top pair OFD. But I think this season, he's going to be around 80 to 90 points, coming off a season where he had 82 points in 81 games on top of 32 points in 25 playoff games. 9.6 seems like a lot because it would make him the 4th highest paid defenseman in the NHL in terms of AAV. But you got to realize McAvoy, Jones, and Fox, they all make 9.5. Werenski makes 9.85. So he's in that range. You compare that to the 3rd highest paid defenseman, that jumps all the way up to $11 million. So although he'd be the 4th highest paid, there's a sizable gap to the top 3. So I think it's a perfectly fine deal when you consider Rasmus Dahlin is making 8 years, $11 million. I do slightly prefer Dahlin. $1.4 million difference. I'm not so sure. So $9.6 million is perfectly fine value for Evan Bouchard. Jacob Chychrun, I have 8 years, $7.25 million. He'll be 27 when this deal kicks in. If he has a very solid season for the Washington Capitals, around 50-ish points, he's going to get legit top pair money as well as an 8-year contract. $7.25 million is exactly that, maybe even a little bit more. Brock Nelson, I'm going to go with the 5-year deal at $5.75 million. He will be 34 years old next October when this deal kicks in, but he's turning 34. Not that he'll be a 34 and a half. He'll literally be 34. But assuming that he puts up another season around 35 and 35 like he has for the last 3 years, I wouldn't hate this deal. Yes, it would be far too much term taking him to 39 years old, but we've seen Lou Lamoriello give out some big term to guys in their 30s. This team has a 2 to 3 year window when looking at some of their pieces. Who cares about the final year or two of that contract? And it's only $5.75 million. You could potentially move off it, lock him up, get some very good value for 2 to 3 years, and then beyond that, Lou Lamoriello probably want to be the general manager of this team at that point. He doesn't give a shit. Mikko Rantanen, 8 years, $12.5 million. He's going to come just below Nathan McKinnon at $12.6 million. When looking at him, he's, in my opinion, pretty easily the third best right wing in the entire NHL. Kucherov, Pasta, and then Mikko Rantanen is a pretty clear third as of right now. Has been 100-ish point pace, over 100 point pace the last 2 seasons. Can get you 55 goals in a season. The ideal power forward in the NHL, and as a result, $12.5 million. lock him the hell up. Sam Bennett, this is going to be interesting. If he re-signs in Florida, I think it's going to be like a 6x6. If he hits the open market, I could see it being like a 7x7.5, similar to Lindholm. He's an interesting case. I think he would take less to stay in Florida. Does Florida want to keep? Florida wants to keep him, don't get me wrong, but he might price himself out considering they have Lundell on that new contract. Maybe he's the future second-line center, but if he hits the open market, people are going to want him, and Florida wants him clearly, considering the fact he's maybe not the most skilled second-line center in the NHL, but he is so built for the playoffs in terms of just throwing opposing players around, that physical, gritty kind of guy. Sam Bennett is the guy that you don't, he's basically like the next Brad Marchand. Once Brad Marchand's out, not as talented, don't get me wrong, but he's in that same vein. And then lastly, I have Mitch Marner, 8 years, $12.25 million, in 7 years, 12.65 if he hits the open market. He's not taking a discount. We saw him in his negotiations back in 2019, hold out for a long time. He is going to want the absolute bag. Auston Matthews is going to take some extremely team-friendly deal. William Nylander, actually Auston Matthews' deal is looking pretty good, but William Nylander did not take some team-friendly deal at 11.5. He's going to say, I have a far bigger track record and is far better defensively than William Nylander. I want at least $12 million. And I honestly can't really blame him for saying that, and especially it's a year later, given the cap. Cap's only going to go up. So as a result, I think Marner is going to be around $12 million. He's great in the regular season, 100-ish point pace, very good defensively, shits the bed come playoff time. But if you're going to keep a guy like Mitch Marner, you're going to have to pay up. And if he hits the open market, yes, maybe he doesn't have the biggest playoff experience, playoff success, but a team is going to, a middling team is going to clear out money for Mitch Marner because they're just trying to make the goddamn playoffs. Like if a team that is in the middle of nowhere, they're going to go for a Mitch Marner to get their team into the playoffs. God, for who cares what happens after that? Just make the goddamn playoffs. So as a result, the Leafs are going to have to pay up for Mitch Marner. But yeah, those are my contract predictions. Who am I giving far too much term to? Who am I giving far too much AAV to? Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Drop some other 2025 RFAs or UFAs in the comments below. I'll give you my contract predictions on them. I'll be seeing the next one.